welcome to this webinar about gastronomy experiences in Denmark. Today we'll be looking at Denmark through the lens of gastronomy. First, I want to introduce myself. My name is Mette and I'm based in New York, and I, together with my colleague Nina, who is based in London, work with travel trade in the US and the UK market. We are your main points of contact, and please feel free to email or to note down my email if you have any questions. So to start, I'd just like to place where Denmark actually is. So as you see here on the map, Denmark is tucked nicely in between Norway and Sweden, and it is the southernmost of the Scandinavian countries. And this actually means that the climate is a lot milder than what most people think. Our country is also almost completely surrounded by water and only has a small direct border with Germany to the south. This means that we have a lot of coastline and a lot of delicious seafood. It is also the smallest of the Scandinavian countries, which means that it is a pocket-sized destination where everything is within easy reach, and it is also easily combined with other Scandinavian or European countries. And just to make the size of Denmark a bit more tangible, it takes you about 6 hours to drive from one end to the other, and there's a maximum of a 2-hour drive in between the major cities in Denmark. Denmark is perfect for all type of travelers, whether it is a family-friendly, it's perfect for romantic getaways. You can explore many of our natural wonders. It is a bicyclist dream, and our country has a very rich Viking history, and we also have one of the oldest monarchies in the world. Last but not least, Denmark is of course home to New Nordic cuisine and to some of the best restaurants in the world, and this is of course what we're here to dive into today. So how is gastronomy relevant for travel? 5 years ago, Booking.com found that 61% of travelers chose their destination for its food and drink, and the interest in gastronomy has only grown since. And this means that food tourism is not just for foodies, it is for everyone. Food tourism also blends into many of the other trends that we're seeing in the travel industry right now, such as sustainability and the search for authentic experiences. And sustainability links into food tourism. In the Danish gastronomy scene has a very high commitment to sustainability. We have 14 restaurants in Denmark that have been awarded the Green Michelin star for sustainability, and also going out to the local restaurants also supports the smaller industries in Denmark, and is therefore also sustainable. And it is linked to authentic experiences because food is a great gateway into local culture, and implementing gastro experiences into clients' itineraries is a great way to ensure that they meet locals and also get these authentic experiences that a lot of people are searching for. So Denmark was the catalyst for the whole new Nordic food movement with the opening of the famous restaurant Noma, as well as the Nordic Kitchen Manifesto from 2004. The key to Danish food, and also the essence of what the New Nordic Kitchen Manifesto stands for, is in season, locally sourced food served in a creative and social manner. So it's about finding what is available to you in the environment you're in a given time. Many of you will have heard of restaurant Noma. They have been ranked as the world's best restaurant 5 times, and they're now best of the best. You cannot get the award again anymore, so they'll be best of the best from now on out. And Noma has really made their mark on gastronomy. They have challenged the norm of food in Denmark and the Nordics. And after the success of Noma, restaurant after restaurant in Denmark and the entire northern region of Europe, restaurants have followed this new Nordic cooking. And the Michelin Guide has even had to publish a unique guide for the Nordics alone. In 2022, Denmark has 39 Michelin stars between 28 restaurants and 15 Bib Gourmand restaurants. So there's a lot of good restaurants to explore. And 2 things that I think is really good to know is firstly that Michelin does not mean stuck-up dining. It is all done in a uniquely Danish and friendly way. And secondly, that non-Michelin starred restaurants also follow the trend of new Nordic cooking. So it is possible to experience this type of food in a more affordable manner. So, how to experience this unique Danish gastronomy in a tour? I will give you some brief suggestions on how to do so and then get into more detail about what it could actually look like in the following slides. Today, most hotels in Denmark and Copenhagen have a really good restaurants and bars, and they cater to this interest in Denmark that there is of new Nordic cooking. And if you have a specific incoming, then you can get them to send you some examples, or you can write to me, and we can send some examples of hotels with excellent restaurants. You can also add a food tour in your itinerary. I'll give more concrete examples of what those could be, but it is, for example, foraging tours and gastro walking or biking tours. Cooking classes are very popular and can be easily added into your itinerary, and they are a great way to bring your vacation memories back home. Food excursions, which could be combining a stay in Copenhagen with a trip north of Copenhagen to the countryside, or maybe to our gourmet island, which I'll talk to you about in a bit. But this venturing out on a food excursion somewhere else in Denmark. The Danish cities are full of coffee and cake houses, so be sure to add these so you get a little hygge and feel like a local Dane. And you should also make sure that your itinerary has at least one lunch with open faced sandwiches and snaps, because this is the most Danish meal you can have. Um, Finally, if you plan an itinerary in Denmark, then ask your incoming or me for recommendations for the road, so you are sure to visit wineries, distilleries, farm shops, and the seaside with our fresh seafood. And also, we have a bunch of events that are centered around food happening throughout the year. So, if you have clients going somewhere, it could be really good to know that these events are happening. So, most tours to Denmark will have a substantial amount of Copenhagen. And I would like to provide you with some concrete examples of what of the Copenhagen gastronomy scene, what are the most popular things to do, and also go more into details of some actual activities you can have there. So Denmark's most popular attraction is Tivoli Gardens. This is an amusement park, the second oldest amusement park of its kind in the world, located in the heart of Copenhagen. And today, Tivoli Gardens is a gastronomical gem, and most locals actually have an annual pass so they can go in and enjoy the many restaurants that are there. And some of the places that you should visit is Tivoli Food Hall, Kagenhagen, Fronim, and Nim Restaurant. There's a lot more restaurants in Tivoli Gardens, and all of them are of really great quality. Danish pastry and cakes are famous all over the world, and I recommend trying the bakeries Le Glace and Heart Bakery. Um, Le Glace is a cake institution of sorts, you can say, in Denmark. It is the oldest and probably the best confectionery in Denmark, and it was founded in the middle of Old Copenhagen on the 8th of October 1870. And Heart Bakery is run by the American baker who helped shape American love for sourdough. His name is Richard Hart, and he also teamed up with René Redzepi, who is the co-owner of Noma, to open this bakery. So when you go to Hart Bakery, you can also say that you get a little taste of Noma without actually being at Noma. Copenhagen also has a lot of food markets, and these are a great thing to easily tie into your Copenhagen itinerary. Torvhallerne is an indoor and outdoor food market and food hall. Here you can buy fresh produce to bring home or buy ready to eat food and enjoy the atmosphere. In the summertime, the outdoor space also have jazz concerts and other entertainment. The outdoor food market Bruns Gadekøkken is just a bridge cross from the iconic Nyhavn, which is the harbor with all the colorful houses. In the wintertime, they have a ice skating rink, so you can go ice skating and then have a nice hot cocoa afterwards. And finally, I want to mention Reffen, which is also an outdoor food market in Copenhagen's newest neighborhood called Refsaløen, which is pretty difficult to pronounce, but this is home to some of the best Michelin restaurants that we have, such as the New Noma and also the Alchemist. Restaurant Geranium was awarded the best restaurant in the world in 2022. They were runner up to Noma the year before, and they serve very creative and elaborate food. They also have a very unique location in the top corner of the National Soccer Stadium or Football Stadium in Copenhagen, and they have beautiful views over the city. Kødbyens Fiskebar is one of Copenhagen's bib gourmand restaurants, and it is located in this, quite ironically, located in the city's meatpacking district. And this district is also a gastro gem right behind the central station. I also just want to mention Kofogo, which is short for Copenhagen Food Collective. They have a collection of restaurants around Copenhagen, and they serve really amazing quality food that will not leave you broke. So this is a more affordable way to experience new Nordic cuisine. I would like to talk you through some of the more concrete food activities that you can do in Copenhagen. We have a local tour operator who focus on gastronomy. They're called Foods of Copenhagen, and they're connected with all the gastro hotspots in the city. So what they can do is that they can bring your clients on a guided either walking or biking tour where you walk around and see the city, but you also go into various restaurants and taste the city along the way. At CPH Cooking, you can do cooking classes and dine in a cozy Danish apartment setting. Haneman's Kitchen is another great place for cooking classes. The owner, Trine Hanemann, appears regular in magazines and newspapers in both America and Britain. Vladimir's Kitchen, who is owned by the host of the Danish Bake Off show, they provide cooking classes where you can have learn how to make the famous open face sandwiches, and then you can enjoy these while you're sipping on locally produced beer. Cykelkokken can take you on a biking tour of the city, and he can cook meals on his bike. He's biking around with his kitchen. This was the photo that was on the introduction slide of this presentation, and I just really love this because there's something very Danish about combining cooking and biking. In Copenhagen, in Tivoli Gardens, you can make one of Denmark's most beloved desserts, which is flødeboller. They are really, really good. It is a kind of a cream puff cake covered with chocolate, and they're a bit tough to perfect, which makes the creation of them even more fun. Now I want to show you a bit more about the special food experience that awaits outside of Copenhagen. And you might not believe this, but we actually do have quite a few wineries in Denmark. This has happened alongside with the climate change, where our country is now warm enough to actually make wine. And it also comes with increased interest that exists. There is on sustainability, that now both locals and restaurants are looking for sustainable local products, and wine is, of course, one of these products. So while we may be best known for our beer, we have been proven to be quite great as wine producers as well. And I've listed just a few of the traditional wineries offering exciting cellar and vineyard tours. There's also two more untraditional wineries that I want to mention. A little outside of Aarhus, Denmark's second largest city, you find Cold Hand Winery, and they produce their own fruit wine. They have a little shop, and they also have amazing wine tastings and dinner experiences that they do in the summer season. And on an island south of Copenhagen, you find Frederiksdal, and they're a famous producer of cherry wine. When I visited them, they claim to be the only winery in the world that produces cherry wine, where the process of making the wine is the same process that you would do grape wine. And they also have their wine served in one of the Michelin-starred restaurant in Paris. So just to look at some places to stay outside of Copenhagen where you can have a really great gastronomic experience. Dragsholm Castle is a hotel with 40 rooms, and is a great example of a place in Denmark that combines our royal history with the current gastronomic scene. The restaurant of Dragsholm got its first Michelin star in 2017, and it still has one. The kitchen is run by the chef Klaus Henriksen, and he is focusing on local in season ingredients. The castle is 800 years old, and it is therefore also one of Denmark's oldest castles. And there are many ghost stories which guests love to explore while they're there. The surrounding nature is a UNESCO geopark, and because the castle is so focused on gastronomy, you can have arranged herb foraging or mushroom foraging with a ranger. Henne Kirkebo Kro is an inn which it has 12 rooms, and it is located in the western part of Denmark, so kind of the opposite side of the country from Copenhagen. Um, It has its own kitchen garden and dates all the way back to 1790. It is both a hotel and a restaurant, and the restaurant has two Michelin stars. It is led by the head chef Paul Cunningham, who has trained some of the best chefs in Denmark, and he is also known to be one of the people behind Noma. Denmark has 40 seaside hotels with all the coastline that kind of invites guests to come. So these are very popular amongst Danes. We call them badehoteller in Danish, which literally means bathing hotels. And I just picked out a few of the favorites here. These hotels are uniquely Danish, and they, of course, have a seaside view, but they also have a unique look with a lot of light colored wood, natural light, and in general, they're very have a very relaxing atmosphere. So it is, while it is luxurious in a very simple, balanced way. I mention these because they also have a really strong focus on gastronomy. And a good example is that one of the winners of the World Championship of Chefs was won by Elisabeth Madsen, who works in actually one of Denmark's most famous seaside hotels, which is Swinklo Seaside Hotel in the northern part of Denmark. I also added Rødvig Bad Hotel or Rødvig Seaside Hotel, as they were voted the best seaside hotel in Denmark in 2022. No matter which of the seaside hotels you visit, you'll find a commitment to creating high gastronomic experiences in a tranquil and cozy atmosphere. So now I want to look at one of the more fun, hands-on kind of experiences that you can have with food in Denmark. There are two places in Denmark where you can join an oyster safari: the Limfjord and the Vardensee. The Limfjord is not to be confused with the Norwegian fjords where you're in between huge mountains. We don't have mountains in Denmark, but this area is very much known for their delicious oysters and mussels. The Varden Sea is a UNESCO site, and it's as it is the largest tidal flood system in the world, and it continues all the way into Germany and the Netherlands. On an oyster safari, you put on your rubber boots and you walk across the seabed, and you find oysters and mussels. And at the Varden Sea Center, they have tours where the oysters and mussels you pick, you can take them with you and cook a meal. And if you want a more luxurious version, you can also have your tour guide have a bottle of champagne, so you can get champagne and fresh oysters. And this is actually also very sustainable because the Pacific oyster is an invasive species in Denmark. So you're actually helping the environment while you're eating these fresh oysters. And a good way, if you have clients that could be interested in such an experience, a good way to know when you can actually do it is that the season is right to go oyster safari when the month does not have an R. So if you have clients going in June, then they can go. If they want to go in February, there's an R in February, so then they cannot go. So now we're moving on to our salt island, the island of Læsø, which is just at the north end of Denmark, and it is a short ferry ride from the mainland. This island is very, very famous in Denmark for its salt. They have processed their own salt, and you can visit the salt processing hut and be part of the process. They have a very rich history, as this hut has been producing salt in the same way since the 12th century. Some of the top restaurants in Copenhagen, such as The Alchemist, are proudly using Læsøsalt, and it is also something you find in homes throughout Denmark. Visitors, if you have clients going there, I suggest also visiting the Salt Wellness Center, which is placed in a repurposed church, and that's a really cool experience to have. So going to the very northern tip of Denmark, we have the old fishing village of Skagen. This is one of my favorite places in Denmark and also a very beloved destination for many Danes. They are known for their iconic fish warehouses at the harbor, where the Danish seafood restaurant Skagen Fiskerestaurant has been located for the last 50 years. The seafood they serve here is almost fresh out of the water, and you can enjoy your meal while you're looking out on the fishing boats in the small harbor in a very cozy and friendly atmosphere. And this city also has a lot of shops and some very iconic houses in the old part of town. And it is something that visitors really, people that I've met that have been to Skagen, that is something that they put on their, like, one of their favorite things that they did while they were in Denmark. The city, because the city is also such a popular Danish summer vacation spot, they have a lot of iconic hotels in for the Danish population, such as Ruth's Hotel and Brøndums Hotel, and both are really committed to their food as well. So finally, I want to jump over to our gourmet island, Bornholm. Bornholm is located, as you see on the map, I've drawn a little line to where it's actually located. It is on the opposite side of Sweden, and it's about a 40-minute flight from Copenhagen. This island is kind of the source for new Nordic cuisine, and they're also known for being the sunniest place in Denmark. After a crisis hit the local fishing industry in the 1980s, the islanders decided to use the island as the island's natural resources and start cultivating local products. So this warm and sunny climate has worked in their favor, and many Copenhagen restaurants got their ingredients from Bornholm. And because of all these popular restaurants in Copenhagen using the products of Bornholm, the local chef Nikolaj Nørgaard decided to open a restaurant called Kadø, which is spelled Kadeau, on Bornholm. And this is the island's first Michelin starred restaurant. They also have a sister restaurant also called Kadø in Copenhagen, which has 2 Michelin stars. What I think is most famous about Bornholm's gastronomic scene is their smoked herring. Bornholm has smokehouses all over the island. It only has 10 left, but the first one was established in 1866 in the city of Gudhjem. And at one time, there were so many small and big smokehouses in Gudhjem that the town was named the 100 Chimneys Town. So that is definitely something you want to put on your list if you're going to Bornholm. You have to try the smoked herring. Lastly, I would like to mention Gården, which is spelled Gaarden. And this is kind of the center of Bornholm's food culture. It is a must if you're going to Bornholm, and what you can do there is a mix of, like, it's a school kitchen for grown-ups where you try out Nordic cooking. You can hike for wild berries, have MasterChef classes, common meals with fellow travelers. Workshops include ice cream making, smoking of food, and introduction to traditional Bornholm foods. So now I've given you just a brief insight into some of the things that you can do in Denmark. There's a lot more. If you're interested, please reach out to me. I feel like I only scratched the surface, but hopefully I told you some things that you don't already know that is a possibility with a gastronomy focus in Denmark. And just to give you some tips and tricks, if you have clients going to Denmark, the currency in Denmark is Danish kroners. Tipping is not required in Denmark unless you receive something very out of the ordinary, then you can't do it, but it's really not expected. Most Danes speak English fluently, So, and they're always ready to help if you need help with directions and so on. So people should not think of there being any language barrier. If you're in Copenhagen, please advise your clients to watch out for bikes. They are everywhere and there's a lot of them and they can be really fast. Um, the summer season in Denmark runs from May to September, and our winter and Christmas season is from October to December. And finally, I've listed some travel trade tools here that you can note down. I just want to comment on the first one, which is Copenhagen Card. This is a 1, 2, or 3 day card that you can get in Copenhagen, and it gives you free admission to all the top attractions and public transportation for one adult and two kids under the age of 10. So that's just a really good thing to note that that's a possibility. And now it is quiz time.